Today, I would like to talk to you about my journey to the bodybuilding world. But for you to better understand why I have this passion, I would like to explain you a little bit about my work. You see, I started working in Gameloft in late 2003, establishing the company in spring 2004. At that time, because we were working with telecom carriers, very few presence was necessary. 2005 was a very important year. First, because it was the birth of my first daughter, Lily. The second reason is that because we decided to establish a studio in Japan, production studio, so boom, here we go, the company moved to 25 people. When you start developing one game, you tend to ask yourself, okay, why not develop 2 games or 3 games or even more? So what happened is that in few years, the company grew from me alone in my bedroom to more than 120 people by 2008. 2008 was also a very important year. First reason was because of the birth of my second daughter, Sophie. But also there was a major shock in the mobile industry, the release of the iPhone 3G coupled with the App Store. So, as you can see, it was completely different from before. So for us, we decided to move, because the Japanese market was already mature, we decided to move from the Java games to the smartphone games. But because the development environment and the testing environment were completely different, we decided to reorganize the company in Japan. So we moved again, this time the other way around, from 100 people to a 20 people company. In the last few years, we decided to develop games for the Japanese market. And here we go again, and we recruited more than 40 people. So we went up to 60. Then, now we decided to go for the publishing, international publishing. So we reduce again the company. So if there is one thing and one word I have learned from working in this industry, and the most important one to survive it, is definitely flexibility. In the last 12 years, I have moved my company 8 times, changing multiple times business model and business partners, and changing many times from a small size company to a bigger size company, and vice versa. So in the mobile game industry, it is very, very important to constantly optimize. Optimize your resources, optimize your time, optimize your marketing, your acquisition budget, and of course, optimize your production. So of course, it's quite natural that when you live in such a frenzy environment, you tend to optimize as much your life as your work. So for me, it all started by going to the gym during my lunch break to exercise and to relax. But soon, it was not enough. Because you see, when you start seeing some tiny changes on your body, a small biceps here, a small muscle on your triceps over there, you do not see your tangible results. You see much more your future full of possibilities. However, there is a trick. As all sports, if you play fair, it will take time and dedication to achieve your goals. Reps and reps after reps, days after days, months after months, years after years. Sometimes you will train your biceps, sometimes your deltoids, you will isolate your muscles, and sometimes you will do body weight training and train all your body parts at the same time. I believe myself that bodybuilding is school of life. It is teaching you patience, perseverance, having long-term goals without any shortcuts. The great philosopher of the past knew how important weight training was. And it was more than 2,000 years ago. Basically, what they were saying is that you can be the greatest mind on earth, but if you are not training, you will not have a balanced life. Another aspect of bodybuilding that is very interesting is the virtuous circle that it is creating. Because as you start training, you quickly realize that training itself will not bring you to your goal. If you want to achieve your goal, you need also to optimize your nutrition. In the bodybuilding, there are two main phases. The first one is the bulking phase. The second one, the cutting phase. During the bulking phase, you need to eat as much as possible, as many times as possible, usually around 8 times a day, and you need to increase your intake of carbohydrates to increase your count of calories overall. And during the cutting phase, you progressively reduce your intake of carbohydrates to become leaner. So, because each calorie counts at that time, you need to be extremely careful of your intake of good fats, vitamins, and nutriments. At this level, it is definitely a science. So, if we want to sum up, we can say that starting from wanting to improve your work, you tend to go to improve your body. But to improve your body, you need to improve your health through a better rest and a better nutrition. These all three combined will create a virtuous circle. And we can say that improving your work, improving your body, and improving your health will just make you a better life. So, bodybuilding is patience and perseverance. And I can tell you, I am not the only one who needs it, as my wife almost became a full-time cook and nutritionist for me, preparing my 8 meals a day, 10 pancakes a day, without counting dozens of rice balls. So if you are wondering how much I was eating during my bulking phase, it's about 3.5 kilos a day. So, yeah, I know it's not so much, yeah. So at that time of the presentation, I mean, probably you are wondering, okay, you would like to see me before starting weight training and few years after starting weight training, right? So here we go. So this is my shame moment. So as you can see, I was not training, and I was absolutely not taking care of my nutrition. Okay, few years after, in late November 2013, I made my first competition in Japan, USBB Japan, in the physique category. And here you have the results. So basically, I was, thank you. Thank you. So basically, I was completely cut at that time. I had about 5% body fat mass, and I could achieve the grail of the bodybuilding, which is the six-pack abs. 1 year after, in late November 2014, I made the same competition, USBB Japan physique category, and 2 days after, one of my friends came to the gym to take some pictures to see and to be able to catch the difference. So here is the result. And basically, this is what I consider my peak in my bodybuilding journey so far. Okay? So what can we learn today from the bodybuilding that could be valuable in today's innovation flow? So what is very important is to look beyond the actual innovation to be able to foresee our future. What is very, very important is that if you think, for example, if I'm asking you to think about a smartphone, you will probably think about the mobile that you are holding into your hand. But the same way as you are looking in the mirror in the bodybuilding and you see your future full of possibilities, it is exactly the same for innovation. You need to be able to foresee the future. And it is all of us, by working together, by making some tiny changes, that we will be able to change the society, to move forward for the better good. So, if we look at few examples of innovations recently, so of course, everybody will think about the iPhone. It was released a few years ago, and it just completely changed the way we communicate, and it revolutionized our life. Other example could be, more recently, we had the Google Glass experience. And this year, as you all know, Apple released the Apple Watch, starting the trend of the wearable devices. Even more recently, we could say about the Nest thermostat that would propose to people to control their home from distance. And we could say a lot again and again and again, many other examples like, for example, the maglev train in Japan, the Google driverless car experience right now, the Tesla battery, or, I think recently during this summer there was the Nebbia shower, maybe you will learn about that, that is proposing to reduce the water consumption by 70%. One thing very important about innovation is not to get blind by it. Because you see, innovation will not be this instantaneous miracle suddenly changing our life. Believing in that would be like believing in the old images of the past in the 50s, and this is basically what they were thinking that the year 2000 would be. And we all know that the year 2000 that we experienced was completely different from this one. Okay? So now let me tell you a small story about innovation in my life. So a few years ago, Nintendo celebrated the 20th anniversary of the Super Famicom console. And myself, to celebrate it, I went to Tokyo, Akihabara Electric Town District to buy one of these legendary game systems with few games. So very proudly, I bring them back home. I was very eager to rediscover Super Mario and also to have my daughters play it for the first time. However, there was something very important that I was missing, is that my daughters had absolutely no clue how to use a gamepad. And the reason is simple, is because they were always playing on my iPhone or my iPad since they were born, almost. So from that experience, I got few learnings. The first one is that your kids are not you. That's the most important one. So it means that, it means that each generation has its own innovation that will generate its own memory. The second aspect is that you cannot go back to the past. The same way as my daughters didn't know how to use a gamepad, or the same way a DVD quality image will not be acceptable by today's standard, or the same way the young generation right now is not buying anymore physical CDs or movies. Maybe 5 years ago they were downloading them, now more and more people are just streaming their contents. So the third learning I get is that the process is gradual. It is little by little, tiny changes by tiny changes. And it is only by seeing the full spectrum of the innovation that we understand that it will be very difficult to go back to the past. In fact, we are just integrating the change, and it will make us wait to the next innovation to come. So yes, not all the innovations are useful, but even the ones that are failing and the ones that will be forgotten will be integrated in other innovation, and that will make us move forward. So today, we cannot see and we cannot foresee our future. However, there is one thing that we know, is that innovation is accelerating and it should not stop pretty soon. Very good example is the virtual reality. It's just starting, but we can already imagine that in a few years it will spread, and maybe in less than 10 years, everybody will use it at home. So if we want to kind of summarize that, yes, definitely, the future will not be as dreamy as what we thought in the past in the 50s, but the changes will be as important, just not as visible, but our life will be changed forever. We can already see the society changing. And the same as for me, I am considering myself just at the beginning of my journey of bodybuilding. It is exactly the same for the innovation revolution that we are experiencing right now. So let's be patient, let's be perseverant, let's have long-term goals to change our world. Thank you.